What makes the Netherrealm from Mortal Kombat such a fascinating place is its denizens, where they come from, and how they change, evolve, or devolve within it. When an individual dies, some part of them seems to endure and phase over into the Netherrealm. Whether or not this is the fate of all souls or just the wicked is unclear. Some of the lore suggests there is a heaven in the Mortal Kombat universe, but it's a fairly vague, underexplored realm. Some games show us that that's where the Elder Gods reside. Some sources claim that you can reach the heavens through a Soulnado, but then in Scorpion's Deception bio, he didn't actually meet the Elders through the Soulnado, he escaped into the void, and that's where he met the gods. Honestly, researching MK lore nowadays is a pain in the ass with all the goddamn timelines and bullshit wiki articles, and everyone spouts all the nonsense they want without being fact-checked, and I'm fucking sick of fucking. Since the series mainly focuses on these 6 realms that each get a Kamidogu and are a piece of the original one realm in one being, in my mind the antithesis of the Netherrealm is not something the heavens, it's Edenia. And since Edenia is a realm of the living, not the spirits, all or most of the dead in fact go to the Netherrealm. Well, that's kinda depressing. I'm sorry, was your majesty expecting a more wholesome experience after clicking on this fucking channel? It does make a certain kind of sense. Edenia is not just a realm of the living, it's the ultimate realm of the living, where people live the longest lives, are almost completely immune to aging, it's a lush garden world, everything about it is a symbol of life, survival, endurance, and denial of death. Whereas the Netherrealm is a place of dwindling life. It's the cosmic old folks' home where entities go to diminish, devolve, and dissolve into nothingness, twisted more and more, mutated into demons and wraiths completely unrecognizable from their original forms, eventually becoming nothing but raw matter or soul energy to be fed to new life. So what are demons then, and how do they differ from Wraiths Specters and other spirits of the Netherrealm? The more common term in both MK and Japanese folklore is Oni, and Mortal Kombat sometimes makes this distinction between Oni or Oni spirits and regular demons. Quan Chi, for instance, was originally just an Oni spirit, but evolved into his current, more humanoid sorcerer form. Sareena's an attractive female that hides a terrifying demon underneath. Ashrah can apparently purge her demonic form. Moloch can just be a demon. Drahmin can turn into a demon despite having been a human in life. All of this is consistent with the usual depictions of demons in Japanese and Chinese mythology. They can take many shapes, they're usually bad, but sometimes can be good or neutral. They can be just demon spirits, they can take physical form, they can possess, they have 1001 faces and facets. Oni seem to be the primordial version of a demon, perhaps the one true native denizen of the Netherrealm, and all other creatures are offshoots or more evolved versions of these things. In Japanese folklore, Oni are vicious creatures full of malice with a taste for human flesh. They're also described as ogres or trolls, not of the internet variety. The term Oni means hidden, formless, or otherworldly, sometimes ghost-like. So Oni aren't like Christian devils with bat wings, red skin, and sporting a pair of bovine horns. They can vary greatly in terms of appearance and symbolize the constantly shifting aspect of decaying life, whereas Edenians, through their near immortality, symbolize the enduring aspect of life, its ability to preserve itself and stave off decay. Oni are kind of like the basic life form of the Netherrealm. They're its ubiquitous, mundane inhabitants. As mentioned earlier, Quan Chi was once an Oni spirit, and we actually see what a typical Oni looks like in Deception. Funnily enough, it sports a very similar garb to the Quan Chi of that era. Since Quan greatly surpassed his initial humble position, that seems to be one of the defining characteristics of Oni or hellish denizens in general. They're not static creatures, they twist and transform and evolve into new things. Different things. So the Netherrealm is a place of constant change, and every single native is a case study on this. Ashrah wants to purge her demonic aspect, which is strange because you'd expect a demon to just be a demon, so if she purges herself, you'd expect nothing to be left, but that seems not to be the case. On the flip side, Drahmin wasn't originally a demon, but wound up being one because he was so wicked in life, and due to all the time he spent in the Netherrealm after his demise. If you thought what is a woman is a philosophical question, that's pickle poop compared to what is a demon. All of this stuff reminds me of Inuyasha a lot. That anime tackled a lot of this stuff, with the title character being a half demon who wanted to become a full demon but also became full human during full moons, and the antagonist also being a funky human-demon hybrid that wanted the same thing, and then you have full demons who end up acting very human and vice versa. It's basically anime Devil May Cry. Anyway, back to MK. It's actually unclear if the Netherrealm has any denizens that are truly native and naturally occurring, or if all of them come from other realms and are dead humans and the like. Maybe it's the Death Note thing where Death Note users become Shinigami after they die. We know that Drahmin was a human and Wraiths, Ghosts, and Specters all used to be other living beings, but Moloch seems to just be a demon. No fancy origin, no complex motivations, and a Hodor level intellect, so it looks like some Oni are just indigenous fauna and a natural expression of the ever-decaying realm. I see it as the terminal stage of all matter and life, trapped in a separate pocket of space-time, like the bottom of a waterfall where you only see the splashes of constantly shifting formless water, and the actual stream that lands there is trapped in separate dimensions, or in this case, realms. The Netherrealm is the end point where all of life and matter flow, but also where a new stream of water is formed and matter gets recycled. Ashrah, Drahmin, and Sareena all long to be human in one way or another. Ashrah wants to change her morality, Drahmin wants to change his form, and Sareena wants to escape the Netherrealm, and they can all do that. They, unlike other life forms, have the power to change their nature. Ashrah's a demon who's ashamed of being a demon, so she's trying to undergo demon gender change surgery so she can essentially turn herself into a human or human-like creature. The interesting thing about this plotline was that she was using this special Chris to do it. At least she thought it was special, as it made her feel more righteous after every kill, and thought it was the tool of her redemption, when in reality it was just a bloodthirsty weapon that was cloaking its appetite under a shroud of righteousness. And it's a pity that was never properly resolved or carried forward into M1K, because it's a cool comment on how the thing that makes you good or bad is not your race or origin or some magic weapon, it's your actions. Deception's like a graveyard of unfulfilled good ideas, and character arcs that didn't stick the landing. Ashrah's tale, more so than anything else, shows us how flexible the nature of a demon is. Now, it's unclear if her and her cohorts, all of whom were initially part of Quan Chi's posse, are a different breed of demon, like succubi or something like that, since they're all female and can take on the appearance of attractive women. No such classification seems to be made. The Conquest version of these servants are actually undead women revived by Quan Chi as slaves, which works better for that adaptation. At any rate, Ashrah is a demon who doesn't fully understand her own nature, even as she goes about trying to change it. Drahmin, on the other hand, also wants to pump himself full of human hormones, but unlike Ashrah, he doesn't want to do it to change his wicked nature. He just longs to be human again so he can do evil human deeds like he used to. Because Drahmin used to be a human. He was just a man from Outworld who died and went to hell, eventually becoming an Oni. After countless years of torture and misery, he fell deeper and deeper into insanity until his humanity was nothing but a distant memory. Drahmin wears a mask called the Face of Kun Lo. Despite looking and sounding like a cool artifact, the games don't really tell you much beyond that. It was basically a combat mechanic, a way for him to switch between a more precise style of fighting with the mask on to a berserker mode where he takes the mask off and succumbs to his demonic rage, rampaging all over the place. There's some cool lore you can develop around it, like perhaps the mask inhibits his demonic essence, preserving some of his human cognition and reasoning, which would explain why he's considered a cut above most other Oni, and why he wears the mask, because remember, his main quest is to become human again, so keeping it on could slow his transformation into just another average Oni, whereas taking it off, even though it makes him a fiercer opponent, causes what's left of his human self to dwindle, so it'd be kind of like a last resort to get him out of a bind. Or even a way to get rid of him. Take the mask off and he no longer distinguishes friend from foe. Drahmin longs to escape the Netherrealm, something the sorcerer Quan Chi is willing to help him with, provided that Drahmin protects him from Scorpion in the interim between MK4 and Deadly Alliance. Drahmin's goal could be something like finding a way to imbue his mask with magic or upgrade its power somehow such that it can restore his human form when worn. Perhaps even full-on resurrection. This could either work, or it could be a red herring, piggybacking off of Ashrah's character arc and themes, reinforcing the fact that magical artifacts cannot change your nature. Only you can do that. And it would ultimately be a bitter realization for Drahmin when he realizes that to achieve human form, he would need to renounce his his nefarious ways, which he'd ultimately, spitefully refuse to do, consigning himself to hatred. His partner in crime, however, has no such ruminations or lofty ambitions. Moloch is what you would call a standard Oni, and he only really exists as a point of contrast to Drahmin, so we can see what a regular Oni looks like compared to a non-regular one. Therefore, writing a compelling story for him is somewhat difficult, or rather, one shouldn't try to enact Shakespeare with Moloch, let's put it that way. I think he shines as a simple character doing simple things. Some characters lend themselves well to dramatic stories, while others do humor very well. Moloch could be at that line between horror and black comedy, where he's usually a scary motherfucker that eats people, but he's also dumb as shit and ends up being swindled by other characters like a Scooby-Doo villain and ends up doing good things by accident. His signature ball and chain, aka the Great Ball of Death, serves to visually reinforce the kind of character that he is. Powerful, unsubtle, and thoroughly chained to his own nature. Moloch is a term from the Hebrew Bible that was associated with some god or another, as well as with child sacrifice. Later scholars concluded that child sacrifice is what the term might actually mean. So that tells you what kind of character we're dealing with here. Simple, neutral evil without complexity or variation. The standard Oni experience. Get yours today. Quan Chi's story we know all too well. He's a retcon god who went from being a secondary villain in a spin-off title to crossing over into a mainline title to retconning himself into the events of previous games to becoming this Netherrealm demigod that resurrected and enslaved half the cast, so he's obviously sucking the right dicks over at NRS. When you strip this character to his bare essentials, at his core, Quan Chi is a archetypal trickster or Faustian devil. He gains power by cheating and lying to people, creating turmoil and distrust between various characters and factions and having them kill each other, and then enslaving or conning the victims into his service. He's a homewrecker essentially. He was able to fool Scorpion, the Elder Sub-Zero, Shao Kahn, and even an elder god like Shinnok. It might seem weird and campy that the aforementioned Mortal Kombat Conquest turned him into basically a necromancer pimp, but that's what he is. That show really figured this character out. Quan should be flamboyant, charismatic, and he's supposed to tempt you into doing things that you shouldn't be doing so that he can then wag his finger at you and say, "Now you owe me." But I'm not gonna beat that dead horse here. I'll save it for its own video. In any case, Quan Chi is the ultimate trickster demon. He doesn't have much of what he wants, but he knows how to lie, con, cheat, and steal to get it. He was just a regular Oni, then became a powerful demon sorcerer. He wasn't top dog in the Netherrealm, but he knew how to screw over the person who was. He couldn't steal souls in the Conquest show, but he knew how to forge alliances with people that could. And he obviously couldn't get a girlfriend, so he raised an undead harem. Lastly, let's talk about poor little Sareena, whom I left last because she doesn't have much to work with. She was mainly designed to be a very tepid potential romance option for Bi-Han in MK mythologies, but then Bi-Han became Noob Saibot, so he won't be needing one, leaving Sareena as a mostly aimless character, unfortunately. During MK mythologies, Sareena and the original Sub-Zero fought, with Bi-Han defeating her but sparing her life. This would leave a lasting impression on her, who'd feel indebted to Sub-Zero and see him as a means to defeat Quan Chi and escape the Netherrealm. It might be interesting to explore her motives further, creating a situation where she has to choose between renouncing her demonic self, thus escaping the Netherrealm for good, or allying with Noob Saibot and helping him take over the Netherrealm out of a twisted sense of love for the man that he used to be, perhaps betraying the younger Sub-Zero in the process. Or perhaps you could make her appearance a big plot point whereby she escapes the Netherrealm but can sustain her human form in any of the other realms without preying on the life force of others, and people shun her for her icky demonic tits, so she slowly starts to leech off of others to look human again so she can help humanity and be one of the good guys, but she's harming humanity to do it. So is she really doing it? And at one point she goes full vampire and kills a bunch of people out of essentially vanity and ponders what she's become. Maybe demonic titties weren't that bad. Quick word on Wraiths and Specters before I go. Or you go, rather. I think I'm stuck here. I love how the devs just happened to define Noob as a Wraith and Scorps as a Spectre, and then the community proceeded to read way too much into that, spending the following years trying to MacGyver into existence all sorts of differences between Wraiths and Specters despite them being ostensibly synonyms in the actual dictionary. As you know, Quan Chi gradually retconned himself into the guy who revived these two single-handedly, yet in my mind this is left up in the air. Did he revive them? Or did they just come back on their own on account of them having exceptionally powerful souls driven by the vile, sickening, unjust, traumatic manner of their deaths? It's unclear. After all, uncertainty is one of Quan Chi's main weapons. Is he really that powerful? Is he just conning these creatures into his service? Quan Chi's like a master bluffer. He'd be sick at poker tournaments. Wraiths and Specters and other vengeful spirits refuse to follow the natural order of things, resisting the decay into Oni and the eventual dissipation and recycling of their life force, but they can't fully hold on to their former selves either, stranded in a sort of identity purgatory. And the two undead warriors are good examples of this because they cover the extremes of this spectrum. Scorpion retains much of his past self in memories, or so it would seem, while Noob seems like a different person entirely. The degree to which one loses their past self may be determined by multiple factors, such as morality. Ashrah was able to change her physiology by slaying evil. Sareena is stuck halfway between good and evil, and her dual form seems to reflect this. This could tie into the evil taint illusion that mythologies makes. Because Bihan, despite his heroics, was particularly prone to succumbing to his evil compulsions, he was way further gone in undeath than Scorpion ever was. On the other hand, exploring the validity of Scorpion's memories and identity also sounds like a cool idea to me. Is history truly the way he remembers it? What was his family really like? Who was he? How much has he actually changed? Is he cherishing a memory or idealizing it? These mechanisms of undeath open up new story and character possibilities. If characters with particularly strong souls and willpower can come back as specters, imagine what some of the cast might look like as vengeful wraiths. No, not the Revenant thing. What a fucking waste that whole thing was. I mean, make legit new characters or new versions of the characters, some of which you can actually then port over into the roster, just like they did with Noob Saibot. Imagine what an undead Rain or Smoke or Kano or Shao would look like. What looks, abilities, what motivations would they have if you truly took this seriously and tried to warp them into new original characters? This also has the added benefit of allowing you to actually kill some of the cast every now and then instead of awkwardly keeping everyone alive in a franchise called Mortal fucking Kombat. Okay, that's all I got. You can go now. Thank you. Bye.